Hello and welcome to Forever Boks. We are 48 hours away from the second test between the Springboks and Italy, and Rassi Rasmus has named a very rotated side to take on the Italians down in Qatar. And what I want to look at today is five aspects of the game we really need to improve on, and five aspects that we need to sort of nail on Saturday. And it's kind of basically sort of the aspects that I'm going to be watching the game kind of through the lens. If we do these five things well, then I think we dominate most teams in the world. That's I think, the sort of key pillars really that the Boks kind of rely on. And what we want to see on Saturday is a rotated side living up to Springbok expectations. We have very high standards. We shouldn't apologize for having very high standards. And just because we do rotate, and just because Italy played well last week, doesn't mean we should lower our standards. I think last week was a combination of Italy playing very well, and we kind of expected to see some sort of Italian resistance, but I don't think we really expected to see as much as did come on the day. And I think what was disappointing is the way the Boks didn't really manage to adapt to that, didn't really manage to take it on and then say, right, okay, so they are here to play, and then be able to pile on the pressure back on the Italians in that second half. Yes, at the end of the day, it was a very comfortable win. We did lose the second half from a points perspective, and I think we just didn't manage to cope with the pressure that was put on us and be able to soak it in and then reapply it back on Italy. So lots of work-ons this weekend, and I think what we've got is a very sort of rotated side that's got a lot of hunger and a lot to prove out there. Lots of these players are playing for their spots in the squad, let alone sort of in the team right now. Some of them need to remind, the South African public and the coaches that if the squad gets trimmed down and going towards the World Cup, their name should be part of that squad, and then sort of really sort of launching onto their name needs to be on the team sheet. Their name needs to be etched on, the match day 23 rather than just the squad itself. But there's a lot of players with a lot to prove, and I'm really excited to see how the three uncapped players, for example, lay down a marker. And these sort of five aspects, if this team ticks all the boxes, then I think we can sort of turn around and say, yeah, we've still got the depth we talked about. We're still looking pretty good. But before we get into it, please do smash the like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. I want to know what you think as well. What are your sort of five or even more aspects that you kind of want to look at this weekend? But let's get into it, shall we? Number one, fix the breakdowns. This was a target of Italy, and they said so. It is something that the Boks have basically submitted feedback towards the referee to find out exactly, what was going on, what is legal inverted commas, kind of what did they miss. And I'm expecting the breakdowns to be a lot better this weekend. So big game needs to come from Marco van Staden, the likes of Peter Steph, the Toy, Ruan Nokia, Solomon Murat doing the grunt work and making sure that our breakdowns are a lot better. In terms of fixing those breakdowns, I think a big problem that we saw last week was we didn't get clean ball. The Italians disrupted our breakdown, managed to find a few turnovers as well, and I don't think we managed to get the front foot ball that we really needed. And I think that probably contributed towards our backline maybe not looking as expansive as we saw last year. I do think there's a lot that needs to be worked on, but I think a big core issue is you fix the breakdown. I think a lot of things get a lot better quite naturally. Number two, I would like to see us concede less than 20 points. Even 20 points, against Italy sounds like a lot, but I do expect to see a little bit of defensive fragility with a rotated side, but we should never be conceding more than 20 points than against Italy. This weekend should be no different. I would actually like to see it closer to less than 10 points. We are a very good defensive side. We're not quite the defensive side we saw us during the World Cup, and I think that there is a certain amount of give. We've tried to play a bit more expansively. That's allowing us, or rather leaving us open to maybe being a bit more fragile defensively. It is something we need to work on, and I think, I would like to see, I think we should be scoring 30, 40 points regardless this weekend, and if we could see less than 20 points, I'm pretty confident we'll get a pretty good victory. Ideally, less than 10, and ideally less than 2 tries. I think 2 tries is absolute max in terms of what we're trying to concede this weekend, but I think if we're sitting there conceding 15, 16 points against Italy, I'm pretty happy overall with the defensive effort, especially with them putting on 40, 50 points, which is what I'd like to get us to see this weekend. Number 3, dominate the scrums. I spoke about it yesterday on a video on Forever Sports about the next generation of the front row and the fact that we've got our 2, future front rows on display. And what I want to see is where do they sort of stock up? Where do they stand? And I personally think with the front rows we've got, we should not be losing scrums. We should not be ever being sort of out scrummed. we need to be winning lots of scrum penalties. I want to see us get that go forward ball, get that penalty advantage, give us that sort of free roll of the dice to attack, the Italian defense relentlessly. And I think with Vilko Lotomo in the front row starting, and then you've got Asanate Klabakanya, Oxenchase come in the second half, I think we're very much primed to give the Italians a very long day at the scrums. And I think that's obviously such an important part of the Bok game plan. And some people are sitting there saying the scrums are becoming irrelevant. Right now, they're no longer. We saw how the Bulls still managed to use the scrum so effectively throughout the URC and the Champions Cup to get them in the front foot. We need to see that front foot again on Saturday, coming from the front row, that dominance, that sort of sheer power at scrum time that the Boks are known for. Number 4, I would like to see us north of a 90% lineout success rate. Lineouts were not great last weekend. Bongi Manami, particularly when he came on, uncharacteristically struggled. And again, this weekend, in the second half, he is going to be new to the setup. We do have new callers in the likes of Ruan Nokia, Solomon Murat, new jumper. Peter Steph, the toy is back, however, and Kubas Beats coming off the bench. But I don't think that's an excuse. We need to make sure our set piece is strong. And I think if we come away with 90% success rate on Saturday, that will be a big win. If that means we have to sort of change the way we do our lineouts, if we have to maybe do fewer sort of 4-ball and fewer balls to the back of the lineout, and we kind of just stick to our 2-ball jumpers and being very simplistic with our lineouts, that's actually all right as well. Because sometimes you need games like that where you just want to go back to basics, and just keep things quite simple. Because the big thing about is, why do we want our lineouts? We want our lineouts to be able to set up a rolling more. We want our lineouts to be able to set up a bit of momentum, to others, to bring in a few defenders, create space, create platforms to attack. That is the big thing about our set piece. There are platforms to attack. Our scrums have actually become a way of actually winning points because we are getting scrum penalties. So our scrums are the way that we're sort of gaining territory, taking points, putting ourselves on the 5-meter line, putting ourselves in positions to score points. We can score points to the back of our line. We've got a very good rolling maul. Malcolm Mock scored last weekend. But we need to make sure the lineouts are operating at their best to be able to capitalize on those set piece opportunities. Test match rugby is made on set piece. It is so, so important in Test rugby that you dominate your set pieces. Any small team or any underdog story, for example, when they take on bigger teams, chances are they manage to cope and compete at set piece time because it gives you a platform. It gives you a steady footing in the game if you've got a solid set piece. As soon as your set piece is crumbling and you can see lineouts of the scrum, penalties of the scrum, you can see, your own lineouts, you're under pressure, you've got very little to build on. So your set piece is your building blocks. And if we can get 90% success scrum rate and a 90% success lineout rate, then all of a sudden we're on top and we're in good positions to score lots of points. And then finally, a better attacking shape. We scored some very nice tries over last weekend, but I think a lot of it came down to some very good physicality in display, like some mauls and some individual brilliance as well. And, I'd like to see us play a bit more expansively. I'd like to see a bit more options on attack, for example. I'd like to see us move back to sort of a bit of a multi-pronged attack, a bit more variation, which I think we'll see with Mighty Buck. We'll see cross kicks. We'll see chips over the top. We'll see, sort of more running passes, maybe more skip passes. So I'd like to see us developing that attacking shape from last weekend and become a bit more sort of 2-3 dimensional. Then I think last weekend we were a bit more 1-dimensional, to be honest. So this is a difficult thing to measure. We can go and score potentially maybe 4 tries, but still have a better attacking shape. But I want to see Peter Steph's toy running in the trams again. I want to see our loose forwards in a bit of space. We didn't really get to see that as much last weekend. It was far more orthodox in the way we went about things. So I'd like to see us be a bit more expansive. I'd like to see us be a bit more creative, creating space for the likes of Andre Esterhazy and Kane and Moody to sort of burst through, and then creating lots of space on the wings for your Maxwell and the Pimpies and Edu van der Merwes to score your tries. I'd like to see Grant Williams getting opportunities to have a go. I would like to see us putting Peter Toy in a bit of space, putting Jasper Wiese into sort of half gaps, and not just relying on Jasper Wiese being a bit of a wrecking ball. So that, I think, is going to be a very important part this weekend, is to see how we can develop our attacking shape from last week to this week to next week, and hopefully by the time we get to the All Blacks in what's about 4 test time for us, we've got an attacking shape that can go and score tries, and that can really hopefully win us a rugby championship. So those are my sort of 5 work-ons, focus areas. Let me know what yours are down in the comments below. Smash the like on the video. Subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve. I'll chat to you soon.